What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. We are going to look at an extremely biased interview between the BBC Radio 4 host and the Tory minister Robert Jenrick. They was discussing Boris Johnson's trip to Germany today and the upcoming disaster that is a no-deal Brexit in the eyes of the BBC, of course. The host takes pure speculation and labels it as fact, which, to be honest, it's not even really speculation, it's scaremongering by the Liberal Femocrat council leader from Portsmouth earlier in the show. Not realising any disruption at Calais brings extra work to Portsmouth, pumping money into their local economy. The Lib Dems don't care about that though. Brexit is bad, that's all that matters. Now, in this video, I'm going to mainly focus on what the BBC host is saying, since the Tory MP is saying the usual government line that we already know much of. But I will include any important points he makes during the video. So let's check out the first clip.
We know what Boris Johnson wants to hear from the German Chancellor Angela Merkel when he meets her in Berlin today. Something along the lines of, OK, we don't want a no-deal Brexit, so we will reconsider the withdrawal agreement and take out that bit about the Irish backstop. We also know she won't say that. So what's the point, and what is his next step? Well, we can't ask him because he doesn't do interviews with us, so let's ask one of his cabinet ministers instead, Robert Jenrick, who is the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And since your local government and all that, let's talk first about the amount of money that they are getting, or rather not getting, to deal with a no-deal Brexit and the chaos that would ensue from that. I don't know whether you were able to hear the programme earlier this morning, but we had the leader of Portsmouth City Council telling us they're going to get about tuppence halfpenny and their port is going to be in real trouble. There will be serious backlogs of lorries.
Right, firstly, you Ramonin fuckpig, the chaos you claim is going to happen is just bullshit you was fed by the Lib Fem councillor who hates Brexit so much he is willing to ignore the booming trade his area would receive if these imagined issues at Calais force shipping to be diverted from Dover to Portsmouth. This is all ignoring what the Calais port officials have already said over a year ago now about the fact there will be no disruption at the Calais port even in the event of a no-deal Brexit. It's in Calais' interest to ensure it remains smooth, the same as Dover. Their revenue depends on it. They don't want containers going to other ports in Europe to be sent to northern ports in the UK, of course. The same is true of Dover, as I said. Both of these ports are businesses. The freight moving through it is vital to their quarterly statement. They will work to keep their profits high, you better believe it. As to what the host said about Boris going over to Germany to get the backstop removed being a waste of time, is wrong. There is a big point to it. I would bet he's doing all this to make it look like he wants to get a deal, so less Tory MPs will revolt against him. When his demands are not met, which we all know they won't be, he cannot be blamed for a no-deal Brexit. It's a smart move if that's what he's trying to do. The BBC host is off to a great start though. He claims this chaos that will ensue like it's a known fact. I guess it's the same chaos that happened when we voted to leave. Oh yeah, nothing happened, did it?
I suspect many people will say that's fine rhetoric, but it's pretty meaningless if you're faced as the leader of Portsmouth City Council and his council and the port are going to be faced in a couple of months with lorries queuing up, unable to get onto the ferry, therefore backing up. They can only take a certain very, very small number at any one time, and therefore there is going to be a motorway logjam. And he says the amount of money that they are getting, is too little, and it's far too late.
Okay, so surprise, surprise, the BBC host is quoting a Lib Dem councillor's claims that it's not getting enough money from central government. Well, I'm sorry, but that is fuck all to do with Brexit. Councils always want more money. Even more so when they are Lib Fems or Labour councils. As I've already said, the main port at Dover won't want their cargo going to rival ports for the same reasons Calais won't want it to either. Portsmouth will be one of the many contingency plans available to alleviate any delays at Dover. This bullshit about motorway log jams is yet more nonsense that won't happen. I mean, the mainstream media's biggest reason for delays at the ports is UK businesses' apparent inability to fill out a fucking customs form because none of us learned to read or write, if you believe these Ramonas. The BBC, at its best, pumping out more nonsense scare stories based on opinion and speculation from ardent Ramonas. What a fucking surprise. Let's move on to the next clip.
And little things like Chichester District Council, I say little, now planning to spend 30,000 quid on a 24,000 litre fuel tank to ensure that their local services can keep functioning. Now, You may say, a lot of people might say, well, that isn't a huge amount of money in the great scheme of things, but there is a very important point here, isn't there? And this is that it is money that ought to be spent on social services, the sort of thing that means old people, perhaps with Alzheimer's, are having to be admitted to hospital as emergency cases because they cannot be properly cared for at home. And we have a civilized society, aren't we? Haven't we? We're meant to have anyway. We're meant to look after people like this. And this money has been thrown away on these sorts of things in order that we can have a no-deal Brexit because a politician has decided that's what we really ought to be doing now. I mean, isn't there something basically fundamentally wrong here?
OK, what the actual fuck? Chichester Council is spending X amount of money on a fuel tank. Are petrol stations going to stop selling fuel in the event of a no-deal Brexit? Have we missed something? Will gas companies stop selling bottled gas and other products? No, they ain't, you lying shitweasel. This has to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. If this council is really doing that, then they have allowed Brexit derangement syndrome to completely take over their minds. The host claims the point he was trying to make about this gas tank is that the money spent on it could have been spent on an Alzheimer's patient or something like that. But earlier in the show, the Lib Dem councillor admitted the government has given each council £350,000 or something like that, so the 26 grand they've wasted on this fuel tank can be covered with that, you fucking idiot. The BBC host knows this shit and completely ignores it, instead preferring to push his Project Fear story that is not based in reality. Councils seem to be doing fairly well out of no-deal Brexit preparations. All these extra funds being announced for them over the last few weeks, most will not be complaining. They had to go down to the Ramonin South Coast and find a Lib Fem councillor. This is not a Tory councillor or even a Leave area. It was the BBC's preferred guest, an ardent Ramona who's willing to push the Project Fear they want. His complaint that this money is being spent on Brexit or not on old people is nonsense. The Tory government did not advise the dumbfuck council to buy that fuel tank that cost them 26 grand. That is the council's decision to waste money on something they did not need, but likely wanted for one reason or another. A decision to do something the Brexit planning departments of the government have not told these people to do is solely the responsibility of the council, not Brexit or the government. I know the Liberal Femocrats don't like to take the blame for getting things wrong, but they're all adults, I'm sure they can handle the criticism. This dickhead BBC host thinks Boris Johnson is solely responsible for a no-deal Brexit. No, the 498 MPs in Parliament are responsible for a no-deal Brexit, and before them the people of this country are responsible because they voted to leave in the largest democratic vote in the country's history. It's not solely on Boris at all, it's on the whole country. They voted to leave, the losers of that vote need to accept that cold, hard fact of life at the end of the day.
There's something basically fundamentally wrong here.
Well, it's not a politician who's decided.
Well, we have a Prime Minister
a majority
who's decided that
a majority
no-deal
of the
Brexit is
British
what's
people
gonna face
decided in the referendum in 2016 that they wanted us to leave the European Union, and I, for one, believe that politicians
they didn't vote on a no-deal Brexit,
shouldn't
did
pick
they?
and choose which public votes they want to accept and act upon. I want to ensure that the country can leave the European Union on the 31st of October. That uncertainty, the fact that the country has been going round and round in circles, is the primary driver of economic uncertainty and damage to the economy. If we can move forward with confidence and leave the European Union on that date, then I think we can return to tackling the many other issues that I certainly care about in my brief, covering housing, communities and local government. But the council that you refer to will be a beneficiary of both the £20 million that I allocated 2 weeks ago, and because they are close to a significant port, they will also be a beneficiary of the funding that I'm announcing today. So we will be helping to support them on that journey. I appreciate that it's a challenge, but as I say, so far, the many council leaders that I've spoken to in the 4 weeks that I've been doing this job are taking this challenge very seriously.
And what we're
like
getting,
us, they believe that it's only the responsible thing to do.
Well, the Tory MP states the same shit as what I said a moment ago regarding the 2016 referendum result. But of course the fuckpig BBC host once again makes the claim they didn't vote for a no-deal Brexit because these Ramonas know what everyone voted for, even though the same argument can be made the other way because no one voted for a deal. The ballot said leave or remain. It did not state the method, it just told the politicians that we want out. Article 50 set out the terms and the MPs, including Ramonas, overwhelmingly voted for it. At the end of the day, all we did was vote to leave. The MPs voted to leave on no deal if the EU wasn't willing to agree a good deal with us. The BBC needs to stop trying to tell people what they did or did not vote for. Unfortunately, the Tory MP did not pull him up on the fact the ballot paper did not say we was voting for a deal. At the end of the day, a deal is something the Maybot government wanted because the EU told her you can't leave without a deal. The Tory MP rightly states to this BBC fuckpig that politicians should not be able to pick and choose what votes they listen to and which ones they don't, before blaming the current economic uncertainty on the constant Project Fear shit the Ramonas pump out, rather than backing the government. The biased BBC host kept trying to shout him down, but the Tory MP just kept rubbishing the Lib Dem councillor's wild claims earlier in the programme. Well done, Robert. Don't let this biased prick talk over you.
And you honestly accept that at this stage in the proceedings, people like Merkel and Macron are going to say, yeah, oh, well, all right, then we'll give way. You know it isn't going to happen, don't you?
Well, I certainly hope that they will come to the table because it's in our mutual interest.
The question was, you know it isn't going to happen, don't you?
No, I don't take that view at all. I think that it's entirely possible that we could secure a deal because it makes such sense to both sides.
Well, it might make sense to you, although you are a Remainer, of course. I mean, you did vote to remain, didn't you?
Well, I did, but I support... I voted for a referendum in the knowledge that it would be my job as a Member of Parliament and subsequently as
and in that referendum you voted to remain in the European Union.
To implement the outcome of the referendum, and that's what I've been doing. And since being made a Secretary of State a month ago, I've been working every day to ensure that the UK is better prepared to leave on the 31st of October. I think the EU would be ill-advised to underestimate our determination to do so, or the degree of preparedness that we are undertaking at the moment.
Okay, so when all else fails, the BBC tries to smear this MP because he voted to remain during the 2016 referendum and now wants to help the government deliver Brexit by Halloween. When you can't win the argument, you just attack the person, hey? Standard procedure for the mainstream media and hard-left politicians these days. The BBC host cannot believe someone who voted Remain would want to uphold democracy because in his echo chamber, that would be considered the most heinous crime of all. The Tory MP did not rise to his bullshit though. He just continued explaining the EU will suffer if it does not buck up its ideas.
And some of your colleagues now in the Conservative Party are openly considering voting to bring down the government. Do you really think that you would be able to put your party back together again if we leave without a deal?
Well, I hope that all of my Conservative colleagues, and you do say that I voted to remain. I have good relations, I think, on all sides of our party. I hope that they will think very carefully in the coming days about how they want to proceed. For me, it has always been absolutely critical that we deliver on the outcome of the referendum and that the country can move forward now with renewed confidence after the 31st of October and not keep going round and round in circles. That's very debilitating. It's damaging for the economy. And it's bad for public trust and faith in our politics.
But of course,
and so delivering Brexit on that date, I think, is absolutely essential for the country and obviously for the Conservative Party. And I would also urge my Conservative colleagues to think carefully about putting Jeremy Corbyn into number 10.
All right, but let's talk about...
There is no Brexit outcome which is of greater concern than a government led by Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell, potentially propped up by Nicola Sturgeon.
So the BBC host quotes the traitors within the Tory party who are willing to bring down their own government to stop no deal, which will actually have its upsides, to be honest. The Ramonas like Dominic Grieve and Philip Hammond can have the whip removed then and get them out of the Tory party. Let's be honest, Grieve is not going to get re-elected in his Leave constituency anyway. He has clearly gone against the manifesto he was elected on and has already lost the vote of no confidence. The only reason he remains in his post is because the Tory party has such a tiny majority in Parliament. If a no confidence vote against Boris succeeds, he will be booted straight out of the party along with any other EU collaborators they have. And hopefully the voting public will remove the other undemocratic fuckpigs from Parliament by not voting for them. When that is done, the Tory party will be reunited once again to answer the host's question. Even this Remain voting Tory MP knows the referendum result needs to be delivered for us to move forward and stop this merry-go-round that we have all lived on for the last 3 years. When he tries to point out that this has to be done for public trust in democracy, the BBC host once again tries and fails to interrupt him. I like this MP's style. Not once has he let this biased fuckpig talk over him. If only all Brexit MPs did the same with all mainstream media hosts. He finished up that clip, once again ignoring this host's attempt to talk over him, telling the British public and the Ramonan MPs in his party the main inescapable fact people need to remember. Jeremy Corbyn will do more damage to this country than even the worst no-deal Brexit imaginable. Let's check out the final clip though.
A word about Boris Johnson rather than Jeremy Corbyn. He accused those who think they can block Brexit in Parliament of a terrible kind of collaboration with the European Union. Do you agree with that? Collaboration, that's a heck of a word to use, isn't it?
The point that the Prime Minister was making, which I 100% agree with, was
no, do you agree with what he said? Do you agree with the word collaboration? Straightforward question.
I agree with the Prime Minister because
on that
it is
word,
in our...
you'd use that word yourself,
it is not in the national interest at this moment in time to undermine the Prime Minister's hand as we enter this critical period of
So your colleagues in the
negotiations.
Conservative Party are collaborators with the European Union. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that all members of Parliament, particularly Conservatives, need to support the Prime Minister to help us in these final preparations
Very different
for
from
no
the question
deal
I asked
on the
you.
31st of
as you
October.
were very well aware, that was not the question I asked you.
Well, you're putting words into my
No,
mouth.
I'm not putting words into your mouth. I'm asking you whether you agree with your Prime Minister and the leader of your party. That's a perfectly straightforward.
I'm explaining the Prime Minister's words, which I 100% support. I've always believed that you have to give the Prime Minister the strongest hand he can have in these negotiations. Right. And that means ensuring that we leave on the 31st of October. That is the only route to a real renegotiation in the weeks ahead. And that's why I'm straining every sinew, working every day with my team at the department to ensure that local government is well prepared for our exit on that date.
Robert Jenrick, many thanks.
OK, so the BBC still has its knickers in a twist because Boris called out the collaborators in Parliament who wish to serve the EU SSR, not the UK. He wants to know if this Remain MP who believes in democracy thinks they are collaborators. We all know they are. They are working together to stop Brexit. This is literally the definition of collaboration. I don't know why this is even a thing though. Collaboration means to work with others for a common goal. Even if that goal is an undemocratic one, it's still the same thing. Well, what can I say about that video? The BBC host was definitely impartial. You could tell he was an avid supporter of Brexit and democracy, much like Stalin. I love the way he used complete speculation as fact from the outset of this interview. It just shows you how desperate they are now. Speculations and predictions are now just taken as fact if it relates to anything negative regarding Brexit. He is either quoting Ramoning councils that are taking stupid measures Project Fear has told them to take, or other councils that are complaining about funding, which to be honest is something they did before Brexit, so it's just their latest attempts to justify stopping Brexit. It's nothing to actually do with a no-deal Brexit. We can always trust the BBC to give an impartial view on these situations though. I mean, even the guy they got on to defend Brexit was a Remainer, but hats off to him. He did well, and he wants to stand up for democracy, which is more than can be said for a lot of the MPs in Parliament, and the entire BBC, of course. Well, I'm going to end the video there, guys. I just want to thank the channel's PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members for supporting the channel, especially Mr. Moore, who will bitch at me like a Ramona if I forget his name again. I almost called him Mrs. Moore when making this video, he moaned so much. I would also like to thank everyone who has subscribed and watched my videos. We hit 40k subs last night, so thank you all for that. Now as always, remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.